Hey everybody, this is the progress report for the last day of November, November 30th. Tomorrow the calendar tips over to December, and it's time for everybody to get going that hasn't already done it on their Christmas shopping. But I'm happy to say that I'm here to welcome all of you to the progress report for this Wednesday with my good friend Mike Farley, who is the guy responsible for the selection of this show's guests and the theme of the show, which follows upon last week's show. We had families in transition, a major force in this state in the housing issue, with a big organization with a major budget and a major staff. Today we have a complimentary program that Mike brought to my attention, is gonna be the main host and introducer of our guest, about what one person can do that can make a real difference in the time when we are in now, which should be, and we should all recognize, the season of giving. It starts with Thanksgiving, or maybe before that, and it goes right through the holiday period. So, Mike, take it away.
Well, as you put it, Bob, it actually was 2 weeks ago. Time flies when you're having fun, but we had that Intermediate Monday show there with
that's right.
John Clayton.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? We've when we got done with the election, we turned our attention to what we call the season of giving. We try to focus on more compassionate things, less argument, more cooperation, and we have spent almost the whole year. Every show at one point or another touches on the issue of the unhoused.
Yep.
And, there are a lot of high, passionate opinions about that. We try to talk about it because it's a major issue, and it's a major issue about human beings, men, women, and children. So we had a great organization in when we kicked off that theme for the show. We had Families in Transition, and they are a huge organization, and they do great work up and down the state. They have over 100 employees. They have big fundraisers, and that might make it seem to someone listening that, well, that's the way it's handled. We have these big organizations that deal with this problem, but even they can't handle it. They can't solve it. It takes a whole bunch of people to solve it. And you're right. Today's show is a little bit personal because we're going to introduce someone who I met through a desire to give back to the community. And I think we might even have my daughter, Megan, come up and talk a little bit about that. But before we start, I'm teasing you out, Kenzo. Wait, we're going to get to it. Before we start, I always like to put a little video together,
Which I much appreciate, and I think our audience does.
I
too.
think it's entertaining, and what we try to do is put something up that will kind of frame the issue. Now, we're talking about the homelessness, the unhoused issue. That's not an issue that lends itself to a 3-minute video, so it was very hard for me to find something. There's a lot of 1 hour. It's a complicated topic, but I did find a little 2-minute video report about the homeless situation in one city in Arizona. I think it illustrates a couple things. One, it's not only here in Manchester, folks, despite what you might think. It is all across this country. It is
Indeed,
a
it
big
is.
problem that we all have to get behind and fix, not just complain about. So let's put that up. And it also, if you listen to it, you'll see the different positions that people take, and they're all understandable. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll come back and we'll really tackle it.
Phoenix has the highest inflation rate of any major city in the country. Housing prices are up 17% from the previous year, and you can see the fallout of that just right behind me here. This is called The Zone. It is the largest homeless encampment in the city of Phoenix, and the situation has gotten so dire that local businesses are now suing the city over it. Debbie Falaci, who owns the Old Station Sub Shop with her husband Joe, is one of them.
Don't know what we're going to come across in the morning. Someone sleeping, someone passed out, tents, urination, defecation, violence. So it's been very, very difficult.
Now, the zone stretches for several blocks downtown. The lawsuit alleges that mental illness runs rampant, along with drugs and crime. The Republican candidate for governor, Carrie Lake, is taking a tough love strategy. She says it's get treatment or get moving. Meanwhile, the Democrat, Katie Hobbs, is calling for more affordable housing and a $200 million investment in the trust fund for the homeless. Joe Falaci says he's just trying to protect his life's investment.
I'm a sandwich maker. I'm not a politician. I'm not a lawyer. All I know is this is not fair.
Now, the city has filed to dismiss this lawsuit, but it did tell us that it's committed to working with the businesses involved on a solution. Guys.
Elon, you touched on it briefly, but just to dig in a little bit deeper here, what are the proposals specifically that are in play to help not only the people, but also the businesses?
Yeah, so I talked to the lawyer involved in this case, and he said that some of the ideas they suggested are a more structured tent encampment as well as more temporary structures. He said they're not trying to send anybody to jail or get anyone arrested, but they want this declared a public nuisance because, as you can imagine, this also feeds into voters' concerns about drugs and about crimes, both of which will play heavily into next week's midterm elections. Phoenix has the highest inflation rate of any major city in the country.
We're back. Thank you very much for putting up with that. I don't mean to imply that that is identical to the situation here in New Hampshire, but I think you saw a whole bunch of talking points, arguments that
But it makes the point
come up.
very well that Manchester, New Hampshire is not unique. It's not just our problem as the largest city in New Hampshire and northern New England. It's a problem in cities throughout the country, and in fact, it's even worse in the cities that are in the warm belt of this country, from Los Angeles to Miami to Phoenix to all of those places. It's even more acute in those places than it is here.
Well, with all of that in mind, finally, at long last, we're going to get to our guest, Kenzo Morris. Welcome to the Progress Report. Thank you for coming down. You're coming down from Laconia,
yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the specifics of the situation in Laconia. But before we get to that, we always say on the show, nothing happens if people don't do it, right? Can you share with us a little bit? Your story is a very compelling one. How you even got to the position where you felt that you wanted to step up is a very compelling story. Can you take a few minutes to share that with us?
I'd love to do that, and thank you for having me. I grew up in Laconia. We had 5 kids. My father worked, was a hardworking guy all the time, but still it was hard to make ends meet, And so we struggled a lot with poverty, and I'm not talking just, not being able to eat, here and there, or, it was a lot through my childhood. I remember times, in school where I didn't have, you didn't have, lunch. It's not like how they have it now. So we couldn't afford it, And so there would be times where I would literally, lots of times in my high school years, would see a kid grab his his paper bag, that he's half eaten his food, and I would have to wait there and stuff. He put it down in the trash, and I'd have to go and grab it, and that's how I would eat, every day, a lot of times, and so it's very much fending for yourself. As a kid, and so when you're not eating,
you make that this is as a kid.
This is as a kid.
And I want to go back to the point you started with. Your
Yes.
dad worked.
Yep.
This was not
a lazy man,
yeah,
right?
you
He worked.
That's
all
important.
through, right?
Sometimes folks tend to forget.
Exactly. And just to mirror that, even with like COVID now and how that's is hurt the community, America at large, and stuff too. So yeah. So it's a big, it was a big thing, that I had to go through and, really try to navigate. And then you're trying to learn in school, and you're hungry, and you're sitting there 8 hours, and now, it's survival. You're surviving, and what do you have to do, to survive? I remember other times where, my mom would say, hey, listen, I need you to go down to the Nissan's bakery, before they're putting the trash out, and I need you to get X, Y, and Z, and so we would have to go down there. Me and my brother, we were the fastest, and so we would go down there before the trash man came, and we'd run and stuff and, grab as much food and bread as we could, and, run away and literally be chased like a dog down the street, but, thank God me and my brother were very fast, so we weren't getting caught, but, we had to do that kind of thing, and so as a kid, you're seeing that, you're just no matter what.
I don't know. I'm sitting
Yeah.
here thinking I've worked with several organizations, one of which is an Irish organization,
Right,
and to
yeah.
the Irish, they had they call it the Great Famine. It wasn't a famine at
Yes.
all, but it's the Great Hunger in Ireland.
Yes.
So that issue is very important to me personally, but it's always been a theoretical thing.
Yeah.
I'm really touched by this story. That you make it so real, and yet it didn't turn you sour.
No, I mean, I mean, with people, you have two choices that you can look at your suffering, I think, and you can internalize it and go, oh my gosh, this happened to me, and it makes you small because people have made you small in life. They do that, especially when you don't have money and things, or you're walking, to school and you got ripped sneakers and you can see your sock and it's flapping like a puppet, and people are making fun of you. It's very easy to feel very small, people do that to you all the time and can be very cruel, but I think the better thing is to take those things, those struggles that we have in our lives, be it homelessness, be it poverty, be it whatever, and use those as a way to make change in your community. I've always felt like that. I never looked at, I think, my suffering as okay, poor me, and I can just, I have to, just be angry at the world. I've never felt that way. I felt like I need to do something and to make a difference. It's my family did. We didn't have money, but we had love. We didn't have presents, but we had people that cared about us. So those things are important.
So do you think,
can't buy that.
Do you think that was the key? Because I can see many people in the position you were in getting very angry at the world and wanting to lash back, and you've decided to become a contributor, not do that. What do you attribute that paving the way for you to make the choice that you did?
Well, I just think I don't want to make.
I think you said
yeah,
love of your
It is.
family, right?
It is, and I don't want. It's easy. I think the easy part of humanity is to, when we suffer, is okay. Now make somebody else suffer. And do that. It's the easy part. I think that there are good people, and there are people that are just stuck in their suffering, and so I think that there's a mixture of both too. There's that dichotomy, of those both, people that are, that we deal with. So yeah.
So when did you start? This is something that's ingrained in you. When did you start giving back? I know there was the specific realization in Laconia, but I got to believe that even before that you didn't just suddenly change. When did you begin, looking to? Was it through your church, or how did you begin starting this giving back that you're doing?
Yeah, I think throughout my life I would do that if I saw somebody, suffering, or you see somebody in the store, mother can't pay for something, and you see her, and I've seen this before where they look right at you like, I don't have enough money to, and maybe you do an act of kindness in that way and say, hey, I got it. So it kind of just doing those things, which would build up and kind of build up, to where with the homeless, I think the first time that homelessness is really it kind of in Laconia in the last, I don't know, since probably COVID really started booming, like it's massive down there.
Well, let's talk about that, because not being from Laconia,
Yeah.
We see what's going on in Manchester, and it's at a relatively high level. It's
Yeah.
not as bad as it could be when you compare it to some of the warmer climates.
Yeah.
But what is going on in Laconia? How is that populated? See, again, I do not want to say that and us.
Yeah, right.
But how are the people struggling with housing? Getting by, and what are the numbers? Or how's it look? How's it feel?
Yeah. So as far as that we can tell, there's about for Laconia, which is, it's not a massively big city, but there's like about 400 as what we can counting, and that's probably not even counting like low income that we see people coming in as well, and the families coming in, for a meal. So I would say that there is probably about that amount, in Laconia,
And so I understand. Let's get to the real problem that you saw. City of Laconia has some resources. Cities tend to have more resources than the towns.
Yeah.
In Manchester, again, it's that othering that I really don't like, but there tends to be a lot of complaining that, they're not, the homeless people that are here are from other places, and we're being burdened
Right.
with this, and again, it's people. People can't be a burden, but
Right.
it's hard for me to talk about in language that
Right.
I'm comfortable with.
Right. No, exactly, because I think it's about the stories too of how people got homeless. We tend to one note it. We tend to think it's one thing, that it's it's an alcoholic or a drug addict. Which they need to eat and stuff every day too, just like anybody else, even though that they have, like something that's just like diabetes, it needs to be treated, and so we have that, but we also have people that are like it was said on the show here, that are mentally ill, and their stories, because there are many, but we tend to one note it. And stuff, and I can say that there was a family that we had 2 infant children. It was a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, a mom and a dad, and their house burnt down. And they couldn't get into, services, and so somebody gave them a tent, and it rained out on them all night with this, ripped tent and stuff on the children. And so thank God that we were able to help them and provide a tent. But there's so many different stories, or people that have, lost their children and are having a hard time, with that.
That's
veterans.
a process once you're
right.
in that process.
Exactly, and having right, and so there's so many, or veterans, that slip through the system, or are low income, So we have all these different, ways that people have become homeless, and what we tend to do is go, it's just, why can't you just, get up and just do it for yourself? It's well, there's different
get help
things.
Or get going.
Exactly, and
language
we really do that. It's something that I run into, as well, where people are, frankly cruel, and stuff. But it's like if we can humanize and say, well, what would you do if you were in that situation, or something was taken from you? Or you suddenly
your house
had
burned down.
Exactly.
My God, that's not,
right, and you suddenly had a stroke, and it puts you in a different, economic place. Like you know what I mean? It could happen to any one of us.
That's what I understand.
Yeah.
We none of us should think that this can't happen to us.
Right.
A divorce, a medical bankruptcy, a loss of a job.
Exactly.
And any of these things can put people in the situation where they're in dire straits and they need help.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we then get to this other problem that you discover. Laconia does provide some services.
Mm-hmm.
They do have they have a food pantry, I presume.
Yep, they
And
have some
do they
food pantry.
provide prepared meals?
Yeah.
6 days a week.
Yes.
Talk a little.
So yeah, there's a place. It's called Isaiah 61, and they're open most of the week.
Are they a nonprofit or?
I believe so. I believe that they're a nonprofit and stuff. And I used to go to church with the lady that runs it, and she's a wonderful human being. She really is. And she even has like a cafe so that they feel like they're at home when they're there, and they can do some laundry. So she's opened that up. So people are trying to really. We see the need. We're really trying to. All of us are trying to get our our feet wet here and just go in and help, and so so she's providing those things, but there are days where those services aren't open, and so the homeless are looking for places to go, and so that's kind of where we come in and pick up where they leave off and what they cannot do, because if it wasn't for us on Sunday, nowhere in the Lakes region are they providing for the homeless for a meal. So we do that. We notice that need.
Saturday to Monday, you're kind of on your own.
Yeah, exactly. So on Sundays, we the homeless know that we're open. From 12 to 2.
I want to break it down a little bit.
Yes.
Let's talk about the details of
Yes,
that.
yep.
So you Was this something that you did alone? Did you talk about we all? I mean, I assume
Yes.
that there's folks that you're working with.
Oh
and
yes,
you're
yes,
concerned
yeah.
and, you know.
It was just like-minded individuals, and we kind of all. It was, I say an act of God, because we all kind of came in at the same time. Some of us from the church or whatever. And I think my mom invited me, and that same week I had met a homeless guy and helped him and talked to him and stuff, and found out that they wanted to do like a homeless soup kitchen on Sunday because it wasn't, and so we all just, my family, my mom, my sister, just boom, a group of people, just beautiful people, came in and said, hey, let me do something. We see what's going on, and then we got food, donations, crock pots, people coming in and, say, hey, I'll cook something or whatever. And then, with clothes and stuff, I would go and get the clothes, and somebody say, hey, I got clothes over here. I've got, 10 pairs of shoes that I haven't even worn.
So let's go back. I want to focus on the meal, because when you
Yes.
talk about clothes, that comes to another issue.
Yes.
And
Yep.
we have, that brings my daughter in, and I want to get her
Yes.
on to talk about that. So I'm going to segregate it a little bit.
Yep.
But with regard to the food, this is kind of like a pop-up kitchen. Where are you actually physically doing it? Do you have a storefront, or
Yep.
how are you doing that?
Yep. So right out in back of our church, we at our real life church in downtown Laconia. You can't miss it. There's a big sign. So the pastor has been so kind to open up the doors, and so they can come in, they can get warm. They can get a meal. We have people that will donate, like some businesses that will donate, or even like Shaw's, or I think there was a guy from a restaurant even just last week, came down and brought chocolate pies so that the homeless had, something nice, they could, they don't always get that. So, and so it's people in the community, really taking notice and saying, hey, how can I help, and so so we're providing those meals and making those meals up and stuff. So
How many of you do this?
there's probably about probably all together I would say about maybe 8 or 9 at this point, but it kind of rotates with people coming in and out.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about, you're talking about a community of people unhoused.
Yes.
About 400 people.
Yep.
You must, at this point now, get to know some of these people. You must have people coming back, and can you talk a little bit about what you learn when you actually interact over the course of time?
Yeah. I mean, and I've talked to different people. Some, like I said, are like they're mentally ill. They need that meal. They just need the kindness or whatever. Hey, go over here and get yourself a meal. Just a little guidance. So we get those kind of people. Then you just might have somebody else that is drug addicted. And you're just talking to them and just relating to them as a human being and not making them feeling any worse. About where they're at in life, and providing that meal, or can I help you? But it's that act of kindness. It's that it's just showing that you care. I feel like that really makes a difference, and they really sincerely know that we care about them, and they're beautiful people. If I have to say anything about a lot of the homeless, is that they're beautiful, they're kind, and you will see them helping another one. Somebody doesn't have something. Oh, Johnny, you don't have this. This might fit you, Johnny. Let me get you this. And I see them helping each other, or if I'm bringing something in, tote or something, they'll come over and they help me take it off, So they're not people that are just sitting there just waiting for a meal. I think that's a misconception. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
I do.
They're human, and they do care, and so we just try to treat them all with respect and get to know them. And I think slowly you can affect change in a human being by showing your kindness and your heart, because they've suffered all these different things. They need that. They need more kindness, not more judgment.
Don't some of them have a lot of anger against the world for what's happened to them? And how do you deal with those folks? Aren't there some of them that are just really angry and want to lash out? How do you deal with that? Are there those people, and how do you deal with
well,
them?
there is, and I think that you deal with that because there's co-occurring disorders with people, and you're trying to figure that out and stuff. And I have certainly lived a lot to be able to judge people and judge character, where, am I dealing with somebody that may be a little off here or mentally, and how do I handle that? How do I turn it this way from going this way? How do I stop a fight that might be happening or whatever? There's really not a lot. I can count on my hand how many there has been, but
it's people,
But it's people. But literally, because of we've done this, they've seen us. I can go, hey, not here, no, and they are respectful. So there is that. There's not this chaos. There's not.
So in addition to the food need, you touched on something dealing with clothing, and that's where it gets personal for me. That's how I met you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it because I don't know if I could get through it, but I'm going to ask you guys to introduce my daughter Megan, of whom I'm very, very proud for making this connection for us and for what she's doing. And can you guys just talk a little bit about what we're calling Brian's gift?
Sure. You want me to explain it?
Why don't you start?
So, unexpectedly, we lost my brother 6 months ago, actually, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Kenzo for a little while, and through social media, seeing his efforts, the impact he was making, the difference, his dedication, his consistency, the real, just authentic compassion that he brought to the project he was working on. And in a, I guess, situation of unexpected despair, really seeking what is the possible good that could come from any of this? How do we salvage? When somebody's young and it's unexpected, you don't have plans. You don't have a plan for, well, what do we do with their things, or what do we do now? None of us were prepared. So in cleaning up some of those things, I reached out to Kenzo, and instead of having what was my brother's go to waste, we decided to have it do as much good as absolutely possible. And we created the project we've called Brian's Gift, and actually Kenzo named it, which I love. And we were able to take anything that had purpose or use, rather clothing or hats, gloves, toiletries, anything like that, that would make an impact to the immediate need, the quality of life of somebody that is struggling. We donated to Kenzo, and Kenzo then has been dispersing that amongst the homeless population that he's working with. But for me personally, as much as it is a beautiful gift to put dry clothes on somebody who's soaking wet in a terrible climate like we have here, I think that the gift that we give is the most valuable gift you can. We give hope. The Brian's Gift Project gave hope for somebody who maybe is jaded and is in their moment of despair and doesn't see a way out. It's very easy in your darkest moments to forget that not all of the world has forgotten you, and that somebody does see you, to validate them and say, hey, I see you're struggling, and here is the help that you need. You gift them back hope, and hope is what will make them hopefully, not to double word that, it's the difference between they're going to try again tomorrow or they're going to give up. When you don't have hope, there's no getting better. There isn't. But if you can remind them that people care, not everyone has forgotten you, you're not invisible, you matter, we see your struggle, I can't fix your problems, but I can change your shirt, then perhaps tomorrow they will get up with a new sense of it can get better. And maybe that tomorrow when they feel, oh my gosh, it can get better, they'll take a step that maybe they wouldn't have. And it will possibly open the door to somebody's second chance that Brian didn't get.
Well, and I'd like to look at it, this is going to be hard. I'd like to look at it, Kenzo, from your perspective. What did this whole idea mean? How did that impact what you're doing, and how did it impact the people that you're helping?
Yeah, I mean, Brian's Gift was a major impact. I can't even say that enough. because, you know, these people are coming in, they're hypothermic, you know, they are cold, they're out in the elements. And so what you guys provided was them to be warm and to not freeze, to not, their basic need, like Megan said, you know, and you know, shoes or things like, you know, we had a guy that had rips in his shoes and his feet were sore and he got a pair of Brian's shoes and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe, you know, like, and for lots of times we take it for granted, you know, people take it for granted that those little small things, you know, and you guys' acts of kindness and what that can do, you know, for people that are struggling, you know. There was a veteran who loves camo, okay? He loves camo and stuff. And so he's very low income. He comes in for a meal and stuff. And you got any camo, you know, and stuff. And so we'll always say every week, you know, we don't got any. Well, you guys, there was camo in there. And the guy, and so I put it aside and stuff like this, and he comes walking and stuff. You know, he's a Vietnam vet, you know, paratrooper, you know, 82nd, and so he, so anyways, I pull it out for him, say, hey buddy, like, you know, and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, like that. I mean, his face just lit up, and for him it was something different. Like, you know, it was. He took it, and he was like, because he loved it, because he loves. That's, you know, that's his way. That's his, you know, his heart. But what was amazing, you know, is to see those moments from what you guys did, you know, and it transpired down there into you guys helping so many people, you know, socks, toiletry bags, like, you know what I mean? And people, they need those things. They're all in the woods, they're in the street.
These are not extraordinary things. Everybody that is watching this show probably has an article of clothing that they haven't worn in 6 months.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's in good shape. And it could be donated, if not to your group, to the many, many other groups that are doing the same kind of work throughout the state.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do want to point out, Megan, you've expressed a desire to keep this going.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts in that regard?
I would like to organize. I have a few ideas, and I don't have them all tacked down. So now
Well, this
you've
is a
put me
surprise
very
question.
on the spot.
I
Yes,
promised
thank
no
you.
gotchas, and I guess I threw a gotcha at you. But
I would like to continue Brian's gift being an established thing to the point that if you say Brian's gift, it's recognized. I feel like that is a way to let him continue to have an impact on the world that he left behind. It's very important to me. I don't know exactly what that will look like. I believe that there could be some organizing of fundraising. I'm good at those things. I also would like to continue to, like when we did Brian's clothes, I collected your clothes, I collected my mom's clothes. I went around to everybody and I was like, all right, clean the closet,
those shirts
bring them
that
down.
you haven't worn in 6
I
months.
went and I snagged everybody.
Size
I did my
32
own.
jeans that I can't fit into anymore.
Yes, I had my
It is.
son clean out his closet, my daughter as well, and I think that I would like to continue something to that fashion. I just think that we've been able to make such a large impact. Unfortunately, because of the circumstance, that's not a permanent impact. When you're outside, your dry clothes are not going to stay dry. You're going to get that tatter and wear so much faster. If this was donating to people that had a place to be, we could set you up real nice and you can wear those for the next 3 years. But unfortunately, in their circumstance, they can't. It can't sustain that. So I feel that it's something that needs to be continued.
So is Brian's gift actually a recognized New Hampshire charity? Does it have legal status, or is it just
No, this is just my daughter with a
just
bunch
your
of bags
daughter.
of clothes in the back. However, we've
Me
discussed-
going rogue.
Going
rogue.
But that could be a next step to consider, you know.
Yeah.
We have discussed that. This is something we'll probably try to continue.
Yeah, the best
One way or
ideas
the
are
other.
mostly grassroots because they grow and they go where they need to go. and they help the people they need to help.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm actually hearing the full story here for the first time, and I'm really happy I got to see both ends. I did see the part where we gathered up some clothes, and I knew what she was doing. And when I met you, I got the middle part of the story. Okay, I know where they're going, and now I've heard that. I love the story of the camo veteran. That warms my heart.
Yeah. It was great.
What is
It
camo,
made his
by the
day.
way?
Camouflage,
I thought camouflage.
Yes,
That's what I was guessing.
Some people love that
The-
style,
the,
you know.
milita-
It's
the
not
military
necessarily
vets,
for me.
they would understand that word very well. Okay.
Yeah, Army man though he was.
Yeah. Well, very
Well,
good.
Megan, if you would like to stay with us, we can continue the conversation with you. I'll leave that your
I can stay.
choice. But wait, there's more. But wait,
Sounds like an ad for Ginzu now.
doesn't it? That's where I got it. I'm ripping those guys off. Kenzo, you didn't do enough. You actually did. It's almost performative art. You took yourself out to live the life of an unhoused person. Talk a little bit about that. I don't want to spoil anything. Talk a little bit about that. One, where'd you get the idea? What did it all entail?
Yes.
Where'd you go? Tell us some details about that.
Yeah, so I'm a praying dude, and so it really came to me in prayer, and I felt like we were having some issues where we were losing some clothes because not being able to house them. We have them in a leaky warehouse or underneath my deck, so we didn't have proper place to store them. So, and everybody was, telling me about that. So, and was getting nervous about it. So I just went back, I just prayed, and I just really felt like God said, I want you to go out and I want you to be homeless for 3 days, and I want you to just raise awareness. I feel like that's what I was supposed to do. So I was like, okay, God, I'm listening to you,
Yeah, but that was a hard ask.
It was a hard ask. It was.
You could have just not mentioned it to anybody.
Yeah.
And tried again for another
Hey,
easier.
no, exactly.
You know?
But did you really say that?
And I don't mean to sound in any way sacrilegious.
No,
I
exactly. No, I
respect
get what you're
what
saying.
doing,
Yeah, and stuff. But I really felt that I think to really affect change, you gotta get in the trenches. You have to get in the trenches with them, because it's one thing to say, oh, I think this about the homeless or whatever. But I feel like, too, also living that way for 3 days, showed me a lot, of the daily struggle of what they have to go through. You have to, and one lady had said, that was homeless, said, there's no right way to be homeless, Kenzo. Know that when you're doing it. Whatever way you choose is the way you're going to do it. And so I saw a guy come in, and he was like more bushcrafter guy, and I said, okay, that's the way I'm going to go, And I knew a little bit about that, so it wasn't a stretch for me in that manner. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And so I basically found a place where nobody was, and I got everything that we give the homeless. I got. So I did get a sleeping bag. I got a tarp. So with the tarp, I decided to make a teepee with it and stuff, and a little Dakota fire hole inside of it. A hole to go up. So I would try to stay warm as I could, or whatever and stuff. But I mean, the first night, I was shivering. I couldn't keep the fire. I got wood and all that stuff, but you can't keep the fire almost all night. So by the end of the morning, I was a little hypothermic. I was like, okay.
And this was the first of 3 nights?
Yes, yeah. It
Wow.
was the first of 3 nights, yeah. So that's where the first night it was for me and stuff. And it was like almost on this island where there was a brook over here and thorns over here, and nobody was going to get at me. So I said, if anybody was going to try to get me, I'm going to make it hard for them, so they did, but they didn't. But so I stayed out there, and then the second night it rained. It rained all night. So I thank God I gathered enough wood and stuff to be able to feed a fire, but I couldn't do too much.
Well, if you're busy feeding a fire all night, that must interrupt your sleep pattern.
It does.
A little bit. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it does. It does because.
What if you have to get ready for work the following day?
Exactly, and you're trying. It does, because it just messes. What day is it, or where? What am I doing? And you're not eating. I wasn't eating a lot. During that during that time, at all, and stuff. And I think I had 2 meals, and it was a little package of oatmeal, and what was it? Some ramen noodles. I think that was what I had, and I got them from the store, the convenience store that, thank God, had a 25-cent ramen noodle thing. And because one of the first days, a lady, because I was kind to her, I went down to the store to actually meet a reporter, and so she was putting air in her tire and she was having a problem. I said, ma'am, you need help with air, or whatever. And she's like, no, I think I got it. Then she sputters again and it's like, oh, I can't figure this out. Da, da, da. So let me help you. She's like, I can put the air in the tire. I'll do it. You tell me what the numbers are. So I help her or whatever. And after I said, you all set? She's like, yeah. And she's like, oh, you're so kind. Here's some money, and she gives me, I think it was like $17 she gives me. So I had $17 because I was kind to this woman. She's like, I just really want to help you, And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to eat, something today, So
I mean, you no cutting corners for you.
I didn't cut corners. No, I didn't. But here's the funny thing in that same breath. So after the lady's leaving, she's like, thank you for your help. God bless you. I said, God bless you. Right? I turn this way and there's another woman right here. And she goes, no loitering. So she's going, I'm calling the cops. Ma'am, I'm waiting for this reporter. Ma'am, like this, like that. I'm like, please, ma'am, please, like that. And the report, called and said, hey, I'm here. And I'm like this, and she's yapping at me, and I'm going, so I'll go over there and stuff. And she's like, do you want me to follow you? I'm like, how about a ride? Like this. So I slide into the car and stuff. I'm like, get out of there before. But this is what the homeless are dealing with.
Wow, all in one breath. That's
it was
crazy.
Like God gave it to me, and all in one whammy. To what they're dealing with in the dichotomy, and what we got, the kind person that can see somebody, because it could be you. It could be that suffering could be you. You can't ever think that it's out of our realm to have to suffer in that manner. And then somebody that doesn't care, that somebody doesn't even care, doesn't want to find out who you are, doesn't know your story, doesn't have compassion. So which one are we going to be? Which one are we going to feed? In life. Which spirit?
So I'm getting from what you're saying that you are motivated by a deep, deep religious faith.
I am.
I think
yes.
that's obvious. That's a great part of your motivation. Maybe it's the real motivation for all that you do, and it's certainly part of the Christian message. Mm-hmm. Going back, 2,000 years, and not just Christianity, but other great religions too. And so I'm wondering, do you have any help from the faith communities in Laconia? Are the churches coming to help you with what you do, or is it just pretty much you?
Well, actually, yeah. So people from other churches are coming and they're volunteering, and with the donations for me doing what I did, being 3 days homeless, to raise awareness and money for the things that we needed. We needed a trailer to house these things properly, mm-hmm. And to get other things that the homeless need. Thermals, sleeping bags, these things. So they are coming and they're helping. We're getting religious folks, we're getting people that are not, and they're mixing and coming together for a greater good, which is always amazing mm-hmm. to see, mm-hmm. And stuff, and yes.
So the other thing I'd kind of think about asking you, you're doing so much for people, and particularly, making sure that people get a meal, and whether it's Sunday or the other days of the week when the food kitchen is available in Laconia, and you've made it available, I guess, 7 days a week because you take on one day. How do you think we need to get people to be not homeless, to actually not just get help to survive as homeless, but to re-enter a world where they have housing?
Yeah, well, I think we need good jobs, that people are able, to work. They need, programs where they can come in if they're coming off the street. Like we have actually a teacher that found out what we're doing actually just recently within this last week and said, hey, I heard about what you're doing. I just retired, and I want to come down and help. You know what I mean? So I always really feel like it's grassroots. It's like, okay, there's something that you have that I don't have that you could help somebody with that needs. There's something she has that somebody else doesn't have. And putting these things together is actually what really creates a massive change. You know what I mean? Because you're looking at a greater purpose, a greater good, because you're seeing these people, that are struggling and they're on the streets and they have many issues. And so trying to, find these pockets of where we can help them and get them, off the street. And we're getting people off the street. I have a lady right now that has a full-time job. She's still homeless, but she's getting like her account and this and that, and she's like working her way up, and so it's amazing.
It's a
but
process,
it
though.
is a process, and I see people getting off the street. I see it all the time too. So it's not just they stay on there. There is those cases, but we have to bring them in, slowly. And
Well, I got to imagine that when you're in that state where it's that difficult, it's hard to trust people. And it may take a few conversations
It does, yeah.
before you're really going to get to the point where you can have the real meaningful discussions and find out what the needs are and then try to address them. The other thing that I think is very interesting about what you're doing is you're not trying to solve the whole problem.
Right.
You're trying to solve the problems that you can solve, which is as pragmatic as
Which is
can be.
keeping people warm on a cold night and giving them a meal when they don't otherwise have a meal.
And
Some clothing.
I think that's something. Do you have any kind of way that people can get in touch with you other than showing up at the church on Sunday? Do you have a web page or a Facebook page where people can communicate? How can people get in touch with you if they wanted to help out or if they wanted to make a donation? Or
yes,
something like that?
so you can go to the church's. It's reallifenh.org if you want to make a donation. Also, there's information there where you could come and help and stuff. And I'm pretty active on Facebook, and I really try to network and talk to people. And I get people all the time. They're like, "Hey, I got this free. I can come in and help." So it really, when I say grassroots and how that's how we've really done it. We don't have a like a fancy page or anything like that, and we've called it Helping Hands because that's what we're doing. So we really just kind of done that, and it's gone good, and stuff, and we've been getting what we need.
That actually was my question. Oh, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
Could we, if you were okay with it, when the show reposts to the page, include the link to his Facebook and people could find him that way?
That's one of the wonderful things that we can do now that we have those platforms up. So
Right.
if you're
Yes,
willing,
'cause I could-
Absolutely,
we wouldn't
that
mind
would
making
be
an
amazing. I'd
interconnection.
appreciate
Yeah, and then they
that.
could
Yeah.
leap from the episode of the show
that's
and
that's a
just
wonderful-
click and connect with you,
Wonderful
send you a
suggestion.
message
That's
or
right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've made a donation right now,
Yeah.
right in front of you,
There
folks.
we
It's
go.
easy.
There you go.
Are you? What are your plans for the future? Is it going to come to a time when this just isn't going to keep going? It's going to have to stop, or do you intend to keep it going as long as you can? And then the other question is, are you going to stick with this situation, or do you have ideas to do other things? Sometimes growth can be dangerous. You can
Right.
kill an organization.
Right.
So that's what I'm getting at. What,
Right.
What are your plans?
Yeah,
for the
and I've
future?
talked with the whole group, and I think just the next thing is, is getting a trailer where we can be mobile. So if for some reason the church is not open or the other facility is not open, Isaiah 61, that we can come right in there, with the crock pots in the, the trailer and, take care of business, So that's the short-term plan of what we want to do, to be able to go where we're needed, and who knows, we could end up going somewhere else, town. Or
and
something.
you've funded it. Your outdoors 3-day. That's what started it, was to raise the money to purchase the trailer.
That's where
Right,
people. That's where
yes.
people notice this.
Yes.
particularly.
But he raised all of the money to buy the trailer.
did,
That's
yes.
pretty amazing. Like, you should be proud of you. I know, be humble.
Don't,
but
don't be shy.
Yeah.
We want to
Like-
toot your horn here.
yeah,
as
yeah.
the progress report.
literally slept in the elements to raise the money, and you did it. It's not just, oh, I tried. Like, you succeeded. You
Right.
raised enough money. They're going to be able to buy their trailer. I
Yeah.
think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have enough time after all the effort you devote to this? Have a regular job and family, or what? Or how do
Oh,
you?
I have twin daughters.
Oh, how nice.
Yes, and I'm on disability. I got my hand crushed and burned in a machine.
Okay.
So this is how I keep myself busy.
Boy, I'll
and-
say.
Yeah, yeah.
Must
And
be
doing-
real demanding. I don't know how many hours a week it is, but I'm sure it's a
yeah,
lot.
Yeah. So I do that, and I try to stay busy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really great. Oh,
Thank you.
wow. Okay. Well,
Well, we've got more time. We could announce, folks, you can call in 603-640-3091 if you have any questions. This really is something that can be modeled just about anywhere. And
it's so inspiring you brought in Kenzo from Laconia, and Megan, thank you so much for what you've done with Brian's gift. But you were saying that this is not just something that just is a benefit to Laconia and the homeless problem there, but it has actually an effect on, beyond the city, here in Manchester,
I think you can certainly make the argument that because cities in general, and Manchester in particular, offers the kind of services that people who don't have a home and who might be struggling need. They need them. I do not begrudge someone coming from Pittsfield to Manchester because they need something that we offer. There are people that are angry about that, and I don't understand it. But the fact of the matter is, I shouldn't just say Pittsfield, but if in any town, services like what Kenzo is offering and what Isaiah 61
Yeah.
is offering, and I'm going to go look up what that is, by the way. Then those people, those 400 people that are struggling with homelessness, are able to get what they need there, and they're not down here in Manchester, in Veterans Park, or in any of the camps that we have throughout the city. Now that sounds. I find it so hard to talk about this issue because what I just said sounds to me so offensive. They're not here. I just do not like that attitude. I think people are free to go wherever they want. That's
Right.
the great thing about the United States. Right. They're free to live their life in whatever way they want, and I have no right to judge it.
Right. Right.
However, if people are living a life that they don't want to live,
Right.
and they want to change it, and they need help, who's going to help them if not the other people?
The community. Right.
Exactly. That's all they've got. The animals in the zoo are not going to help.
Right.
It's going to be the people.
Right.
So that's us, guys. That's us.
Right.
That's
We got to
right.
take care of each other. That's right.
in this season of giving. We're told again and again that most of the homeless, or maybe not most, but certainly a very large number, are people suffering from a mental illness of one sort or another. Mm-hmm. Is that consistent with what you see, and how's that affect what you do or what you think you need to do in any way?
Yeah. Some of them can't. You're hard to house. You can have somebody that's schizophrenic, or, So you're for us, it's providing an immediate need to them. Or maybe, talking to somebody who said, hey, can we, who's this guy? Can we get him some service of, or whatever. So we do the best that we can.
Yeah.
With
You
the
can't
time
do
that
it
we have,
all.
but we
Yeah,
can't do it all.
You can't do it all. I understand that.
But I always think that the best, ideas come from just small ideas, and it's not something that I just could do, like anybody in any town of New Hampshire or America could do, is you just get a couple people that care. You grab a car pot or two. You see there's a homeless community or whatever. Set up somewhere where you're able to start feeding them, and it'll eventually grow. And so, you can affect change. Big change was coming from small ideas.
You're a man with a crock pot. Look what you did. Honestly, that's how yours started.
Yeah.
You were a man and a crock pot,
Yeah.
and then your sister, and then your mom,
Yep,
and
yep.
now the community,
Yep.
and then we crossed.
Yep.
It started with a man and a crock pot.
Yeah.
I want to point something out too, Bob, that when we talk about the perception that many of the homeless suffer from mental illness,
Right.
Or addictions.
all of the people that we work with, that we see in our everyday life, good chunk of them suffer from mental illness. And I'm not meaning to be offensive.
Yes.
They struggle. And,
There are.
and they're able to function,
Yes.
but for the grace of God.
Yes.
You know?
Some people
Exactly.
are
So
better at
let's
hiding
not
it.
forget, it's very,
Yeah.
they have mental illness, but well, guess what? We do too. You know, and I'll raise my hand and call guilty on that one too. We,
Right.
you know,
I also think that there's something to be said for the unfortunate series of whatever events that lead them to being in that situation. Living in that situation is going to have a mental health impact.
Right.
You
Good
could
point.
have had a
Good
medical
point.
emergency, lost your home, something tragic, you end up homeless, and now you're depressed or you're anxious or you have PTSD
Yes.
or you're not going to repair this in that. And
Yes.
that alone is enough to trigger all of those other things coming
Yeah.
out that maybe would be manageable if this could change.
Right.
So do you work with the city welfare up there in Laconia too, or is that?
No,
part-
I do not.
You do not?
I do not. No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they've got to be playing some sort of a part in addressing.
I'm
the
sure
problem.
that there's services that they can get,
Yeah,
you know, and stuff, and pantries and things like that of where to go, you know, for things. So there, there is that, up there, but the need is definitely growing, and there are more and more people in the woods, and really struggling, like she said, with mental health issues and things like that. And if somebody's down, it's really hard to get out of that, because I'm here, I'm at the worst point, and now I feel like crud. So like, it is.
yeah. How come you don't have the energy to get up and go make something of yourself?
Exactly.
That's where hope becomes the most valuable gift. If you can make their stomach full and their clothes dry and them reminded that they're not invisible,
And the
they
sun may
might
rise
go-
tomorrow, and you won't dread it coming up.
Tomorrow, when the sun rises, they may go seek the services that the
Yeah.
city welfare has.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe they wouldn't walk in
Yeah,
that
that's
office
a
door
very
before.
good point, Megan.
Right.
Very good point.
You
yeah.
have to first give them a reason to have hope.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself going? You're going to keep it up as long as you can? Or
I am. I
You
definitely
finding some
enjoy
joy in
it.
this work?
I do, and just talking to people, and and finding out their stories and their brilliance in their own way. Yeah, they're homeless, but they are some of the most kindest, brilliantest people that I
They do
know.
take care of each other.
You know, they do.
I've seen their concern for the others that are in similar situations. It's quite inspiring.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, this has been really exciting to learn about. And
Well, it's big picture, little picture. It all comes together. Every puzzle has a little piece in it, and it all comes together. And as we say on the progress report all the time, it's the people that make the difference, Bob.
it certainly is.
And everything that we've talked about, every single person that hears our voice right now could do. I shouldn't be so cavalier. No, it is a challenge. You got to be a special person to do it. But every one of us has within us the ability to do it. And if you can't, well, check us out, get that link, and click over to.
Well, as the people
Kenzo's
from
page.
FIT, when they were here, which is a much different, I mean, that's a really huge organization. I had no idea what a big organization it was, but they said, "You want to help? We'll find a place for you to help." I'm
Yeah.
sure you could probably say the same, couldn't
Yes,
you?
yeah,
There's
I
a
do.
place for
Yeah.
people to help.
We'll find
Yes,
a way
there
to
is.
say yes.
That's
Is what
right.
the way they
That's
put it.
right.
They'll
As long as
find
you
a
got
way
it,
to say yes.
care and heart, you want to put put your feet to work. We got it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I want to thank you for coming down and joining us. It's really been a pleasure to meet you. I'm a great admirer.
This has been a great show.
When
for
Mike
me.
told me about you, I expected to be impressed, and I certainly was. And
it was an honor
Megan,
to be
I
here.
want to thank you so much for what you've done too, to help us with this show, and your Brian's gift, right?
Yes.
What a wonderful tribute to that young man who was departed from us way too soon, and the terrible loss. But this is a wonderful way to remember the good, the potential that he had for us all. And so thank you so much.
So next week,
Next week, I guess.
I will be away, Bob. I'm
And
sorry.
I
I'm going to have
expect-
to have you fend for yourself.
Well, I won't be by myself. I'll have Senator Lou D'Alessandro back. I talked to him today. He's over. He's recovered. He's back. He's
Excellent.
anxious and ready to go. So you can go be part of the Hibernian meeting.
Yeah, very good, very good.
As the former president, but still active member.
Well, it's my last meeting, Bob. I'm stepping aside.
Oh,
after-
you're still president
Yep,
for another
yeah,
week? Okay.
One more month.
Well, you've done a
but,
wonderful job there, too.
7 years with the gavel. I'm very happy to move on.
Very good, folks. So we'll see you next week with another edition of the Progress Report. And thank you for tuning in, and thanks to Megan. We have this thing will be up on YouTube in about 24 hours or less. And if anybody you've been talking to is a Progress Report fan, and we understand your mother was, we just love to hear that. She was a Manchester person for a while?
Oh, yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
now tell her she can watch us on YouTube. She doesn't have to try
I
and
know, I told her. So get her on the channel.
and get her on the channel. This has been a wonderful enhancement. Thank you so much, Megan, for your upgrading of the show after all these years with my good friend over here, the curmudgeon himself, Mr.
That's
Mike
me.
Farley.
I hate everything.
See you next week, folks. Have a great week. Bye.